Version 1.3 of Honkai Star Rail is just about a week away, so today I want to talk about whether players should pull for Kafka now while she's still out, or if they should pull for Imbibitor Lunae, who's going to be the first character introduced for 1.3. So, I'm going to go over both characters individually, but I do think that, regardless, both are going to be really strong DPS characters. And really the main difference that, I'll go over is the playstyle that, the character has, because Kafka does have a different playstyle than a lot of other characters, and also how easy they are to use, once you have them and once you're starting to figure out what team you're going to use with them. So to start with Kafka, so as we all know by now, I'm sure, Kafka is a lightning character on the path of nihility. And her playstyle, compared to other damage dealers, is very unique because she focuses a lot of her damage on DOT, or damage over time. Whereas, her initial numbers might not be the most impressive, like other, normal DPSs like Blade, for example. But when you're able to pair her with other DOT appliers, she's able to get a lot of DOT damage off, and her damage actually ends up being very high. And the main things with this are her skill, which she can use her skill to detonate all DOT on a target, which is really nice if you're running her with, those DOT appliers like Sampo, Luca. Right now for burn, I think Hook is our best option right now. Then also for her ultimate, not only can it apply shock to the enemy, but it can also instantly detonate the shock for, I believe it's slightly lower damage or around the same amount of damage. It's not too much lower. Yeah, it definitely does depend on the, level of the talent for that. And the one thing that I really like for Kafka specifically right now is the fact that on her banner, you're able to get probably her two best DOT applier options, being Sampo and Luca. Because, Sampo, not only does he apply wind shear, but he also does increase the vulnerability of DOT on the enemy with his ultimate, which is super nice. Whereas Luca can apply bleed, and I believe he does have things that can detonate and enhance his bleed as well. So pairing all of that with Kafka being able to detonate those DOTs every time she uses a skill is just going to lead to a lot of damage. And the one concern with people who are building up a Kafka team from scratch is that you do need to invest a lot, because it's not just Kafka you're going to have to build up. You're going to have to build up your Sampo, your Luca. You just have to build up a lot of nihility stuff. Thankfully for me, I pre-farmed a lot of it, so it wasn't too bad for me to build them all. But if you're starting absolutely from scratch, it definitely will take a lot of time before you get the team to where you want to be. That is the important thing there, but the team will still do a lot of damage once you get those builds done. But now, to move on to Imbibitor Lunae. He is an imaginary character on the path of destruction, which is definitely cool, so he'll have some decent survivability as well, and some good damage. And he's a lot more in line with a more traditional DPS playstyle, working well with buffers, and being able to just do a lot of damage up front. So, from what we learned from the 1.3 livestream, which is really the only info we have on him right now, is that with his skill, he's able to enhance his basic attack. He has 4 different basic attack levels total, the base level, and then 3 different enhanced versions, and the more you enhance it, the more skill points it's going to use. So he is going to end up being very skill hungry in a decent amount of the battle. Now, the important thing to note too for his damage is that on the highest 2 levels, you are able to also damage adjacent enemies, not just the the single target, which is really nice. I definitely do think those higher levels are going to be the best ones, at least from when I used him during the trial, during the main story. I did feel like the highest level, the Fulgurant Leap, is probably the best one, but it will use 3 skill points at a time when you use it, so that is something very important to keep in mind. And thankfully for his skill point usage, his ultimate does let him gain a certain amount of stacks. Oh, I forget the name of it, but he gets a certain amount of stacks. And whenever he uses his skill, he can use the stacks before using a skill point. So basically each of his stacks are equivalent to a skill point, which is really nice to be able to not give him, not make him use as many skill points. But since he can really only get the stacks off his ultimate, he probably will still struggle on like more skill point hungry teams to be able to do like the most amount of damage with him. So I definitely do recommend, if you are going for Imbibitor Lunae, to definitely use characters that are not really as reliant on skill point consumption to do their job. Two big examples I have for this are Locha. If you did pull for him, he's definitely a basically skill point positive or skill point neutral character. And also Pella, because for Pella's skill, you really honestly only need it if you're really trying to get her ultimate, because her ultimate is her main benefit with the defense shred, or if you want to get the buff removal with her skill. But besides that, you don't really end up using her skill too much, and she does regenerate her ultimate pretty fast, at least in my experience, even without using her ultimate, or not her ultimate, her skill too much. But yeah, having characters like that with Imbibitor Lunae, he should be able to use the bulk of the skill points and still be fine to have the team around him do what they need to do. So overall, I do think both Kafka and Imbibitor Lunae are going to be very strong DPS options, as I said. So just ultimately, I think for whether you should pull for Kafka or Imbibitor Lunae, you should go for the one that you think you're going to want to use the most, the one you're going to have the most fun with, because I do think that both of them are going to be able to clear all the content in the game. You'll build around them properly, and yeah, they should be able to cover all the bases. But with that, I'm going to end off here. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed, definitely be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell. But with that, I will see you all next time.
Yeah.